If you feel like you hate that you have to do something, but you're doing it because you're afraid of the consequences of your employer that you're worried about, things like that, I would challenge you to find a way to get around that. I would challenge you to find that freedom. Hey guys, welcome to Think Aside. Today, I want you to change gears a little bit and talk about something that's kind of been on my mind for the last week or so. I mean, it's always on my mind to some extent. It's one of my driving factors in why I even, do this channel, do pretty much the majority of what I drive to or drive, my drive in life is that the the equality of employers and employees and kind of the gap and the misunderstanding. I think we've gotten so far away from what should be an equal exchange, right? It's I'm giving you this service and you're giving me a service in return, money, right? You're doing something for them and they're doing something for you, and it's an equal exchange. And that's where it started. And I think that was the initial goal. It was a service for a service. It was a form of bartering, I guess, in a sense. And I don't know the history behind it, when it started, and all that stuff. I haven't bothered to do research. I want to keep this mostly philosophical, but I felt important, or that it was important to talk about this, because I had something happened about a week ago where an employee of the business that I was working at had kind of gotten screwed over, I would say. She was offered a job and I was offered a job, but we were offered two different jobs at two different times that were paying two different things. And she, being a supervisor and giving them multiple years of service, she was offered a job that paid a few dollars less than the job that I was offered, where I had only been working there for a few months, and they were laying us both off. Our contract ended, and she was pretty upset that they were giving her the short end of the stick, basically, that they were offering me a better job. And she wasn't upset with me or anything like that, but she was upset that it happened to her. And then she also was very worried about how she was going to handle it, because she felt that she owed the company, or seemed to have felt like she owed the company for helping her get that position and holding that position for her until this contract had ended, because she was making a little more at the end with this contract, so she stayed. So me being me, I felt the need to encourage her to fight a little more for her human rights, for her ability to get the things that she deserved. And, that again, that's a big driving factor, kind of full circle, is that freedom, right? You hear this with a bunch of anyone who has made any sort of money and have been able to be free of an employer. They will say it, that you have financial freedom. And I think a lot of the times we see rich and we see like, oh, all the amazing things we could do. But, for me anyway, I can't speak for everyone, but it seems like for so many other people too, all we want is freedom. We want that financial freedom. We want to stop relying on the employer for money, right? And I had told her an example is that, oftentimes we get stuck worried about feeding or eating from the hand that feeds us, and we're worried that they're going to close that hand, but we forget that that food in that hand comes from us. They wouldn't have that food if it wasn't for us, right? Because we're giving them a service, and then they're benefiting from it. They're getting their goals met. They're getting the work or the service that they provide met because of us, and they're choosing to pay us what they are. They're choosing to treat us the way that they are, and we kind of just accept it because, well, they're the one giving us the money. Excuse me. So, I mean, that's one of my biggest frustrations in life, and it has been, is that I've felt for a long time that I've always had a hard time working for someone else. I've done it because I need to, right? I need money. I need to live. I need to have the things that I've taken on as responsibilities, like my house. But we learn from the things that we do, and I think one of the things that is so important that we learn, and then once we learn it, we continue to fight for it, is that we truly do deserve to be treated equally. We are equal to every single human being, to every single thing on earth. There's no one living thing that is better or worse or less equal than us, or at least that's the way I feel. I believe that we should absolutely be treated equally. And so you could argue, of course, that it isn't the same thing to be treated equally and to be in a job and be an employee versus the employer. The employer's hiring you so they can expect blah 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 blah, and that's fair. That's absolutely fair. At the end of the day, we can choose whether to work for that employer. What's unfortunate is when there's so many employers that treat the employee with the expectation that they do as they say, and then we can't do the same to the employer, right? It's not a contract. It's not an equal contract. We can't hold them accountable like they hold us accountable. We can't say, well, so for example, say my internet wasn't working, I work from home and I take calls. So say I was working from home and my internet goes out. So now they're expecting that I am able to work. And so if I can't, then now I'm held accountable, right? They're going to write me up or, fire me in worst case scenario, things like that, because I'm not able to hold my side. But what if their internet goes out, right? So what if their ability to have me do the job that I've agreed to do goes and they can't hold that up, but my expectation is that they pay me for these hours that I'm willing to work and that I show up for that so I get paid for it, and they decide not to pay me. They say, nope, you need to clock out because, for instance, if I'm locked out of a system, no fault of my own, now I have to log out, I have to clock out, and I have to wait till that's unlocked. This was a personal experience that I had. It's arguable that that's not holding, I can't hold them accountable for that same expectation. And it goes much deeper than that, of course. I very much see us and the way that we work for others as pretty close to another form of, when we were earlier on in history, it's another form of what has always been, which is that people are enslaved for working. So I don't know if any of you guys have seen a movie called, I believe it's called Out of Time. It stars Justin Timberlake, actually. And it's a really good movie, like surprisingly really, really good, which at one point he had stolen all of the time. People live forever in the movie, and so they have the ability to, but all exchange of currency, all of the currency is time, and it shows on their wrists, and so if they run out of time, they die. And so these Justin Timberlake in the movie, him and another person, they actually steal a bunch of time, like millions of hours of time or millions of like days, I want to say, or something like that. And so it ends up giving them like millennials of time, and they spread the wealth and they give it to a bunch of different people. And so all of a sudden you see in the movie that showing like all of the factory workers, all of the people that were keeping the economy going and the conveniences for the rich people, they closed down because nobody was there to work them, right? And it's the same idea in real life. If we spread the wealth, if employers paid more of what they're supposed to, or not necessarily what they're supposed to, but what would be humanly moral to pay, then the wealth would be spread out, right? And if the wealth was spread out, like say billionaires, if they gave $1 million to 100,000 people, that would be insane. Now you'd have 100,000 people with $1 million. Some of them would blow it absolutely 100%. Others would, like me. I feel I would definitely try to play it as smart as possible. So that would make one person at least free of this, whatever you want to call it, but this locked work that we have to do in order to survive. And so, well, imagine like McDonald's, right? Like if everyone had $1 million, nobody would be working at McDonald's. Nobody would be there to cash out you from Walmart or from your local Hannaford, or showing my location there. But in general, like any of your grocery stores whatsoever, Ralph's, all of that stuff, like nobody would be there. Nobody would be there to repair your car or change your tire. Nobody would be there to paint your vehicle unless those that like are passionate about it. They're gonna have no need to because they're gonna have $1 million. They can live just fine without doing anything else in their life. Of course, that $1 million needs to be making more money over time, of course. But so it makes me wonder if there isn't some sort of ulterior motive, of course, to stop the spread of wealth and to instead, of course, hoard it so that way those who have the wealth, and this isn't speaking to every single person that has $1 million or anything like that, but in general, for those who have a lot of money, it would make sense to localize that money and to keep it from the general populations and take it from them as much as possible, as inflation and other things that we've talked about do. So that way you can create that divide, that wealth divide, which then of course they're more subservient to you because they rely on you. You need that in order to have the business that you do. We as a civilization, we need those conveniences, and I don't think we really have the answers for that. I think a lot of the times, like for instance, technology being the deflationary power it is, I think as time goes on, of course, we will see that technology takes over a lot of our jobs, and we're going to be, because of the society we live on, we're going to be, looking for more and more jobs. Versus if technology did what it does and we lived in a deflationary society, we would simply need to work less. There's a book, I think it's called like 20 hours a week or 20 hours or less or something like that. I haven't read it myself yet, but it's on my read list. And it talks about the idea of, over time that we need to work less and less and less. You look at when we were first building the United States and other countries and civilizations, they worked very hard at the beginning, just as if you're setting up a business, you work very hard at first and then things kind of start to automate, things start to become more efficient, and as time goes on, you need to put less time into it. Same idea. So, without rambling too much about, kind of going in circles about wealth divide and employer employee, I just wanted to leave with a message that you are equal, that, every human has the same equal rights as every other human, and you should decide what things are important and what things you feel are harmful to your being if you accept and that you just do, right? If you feel like you hate that you have to do something, but you're doing it because you're afraid of the consequences of your employer that you're worried about, things like that, I would challenge you to find a way to get around that. I would challenge you to find that freedom, seek the possibility, seek the seek the thing you need to do, that you need to achieve to break free of relying on someone else, that subserviency, and instead aim to be a little more self-sovereign. And I'm still aiming, I'm still very much subservient to the money, unfortunately, but one day my goal is to break free of that, and I just challenge you as an individual to break free of that as well, and to think aside what we see as normal work ethic and what we think is, you work till you die or you work to make your money and stuff like that. Stop trading your time, period. And that's all I ask, is to have a little more faith in yourself, believe in your ability to achieve, believe in your ability as a human being, and believe in yourself that you can do so much more and that you can live such a better life if you believe in yourself and you work toward it. And it's not easy. I'm still working toward it myself, but I do believe that it is possible, and I believe that it is necessary. At the end of the day, it is necessary to fight for what you want, because that is the only way any of us will ever get the things that we need, and to stop what is currently going on, to stop so many businesses from taking advantage of people who just don't have what they have. Thank you for listening.